Alright guys, TechRabbit here today, and yesterday I talked about whether eUnited should make a roster change, potentially bringing in Simp for a guy like JKap, and guess what? An hour after I make the video public, it actually is confirmed, so I thought we'd go into more details today. There's definitely a lot of stuff to talk about. It really did kick off on Twitter last night, and there may even be enough stuff coming out of CoD Burner to do a Rostermania rumours video tomorrow, which is potentially on the cards. Firstly, I'd like to say thanks for all the comments on yesterday's video in terms of the Q&A that I'd like to do. If you have any more comments, or if you have any more questions, leave them down on this video, and then in a couple of days time I'll try and sort that Q&A for you guys. Thanks for 10,000 subscribers once again. So let's get right on in with it here. Simp joins into eUnited with JKap going into the substitute role, which is obviously a very intriguing change. Historically, when JKap is moved to the bench or is dropped off the team, that team may become worse. He may go to another team that ends up beating this team. That's how it's been historically. Whether it will happen this time, we will have to see indeed. So firstly, did eUnited need a change? I personally think they did. According to CoD Burner as well, the vibes were horrible at Fourth Worth, the way they were losing those games, especially if you're going to place top 16 and you're a team that should be contending to win a championship. There's no question you're going to make some sort of change. So was JKap the right man to move out? Because of course they cannot bring in anyone else but Simp, considering he was the man on the substitute bench, and the roster change period begins on April the 5th, so they have to play these 2 weeks of cross-divisional play with their substitute or with their initial starting five. So this was the only change they could make, so they had to switch out one of the players on the team. As I said, you're not going to swap out Arstees, Clayster or Abizi, so it had to be either JKap or Brustini. So it seems Brustini has gone over to the Maddox. We have Simp on the battery as the War Machine, Abizi on Ruin, Clayster on Crash, Brustini on Profit, Arstees on Recon, which is an interesting one, as Pokelane says here in this comment, because you'd have thought that maybe Arstees on the Tempest would make more sense than having Brustini on it, considering he's new to the role, but we'll have to see. So Brustini is going to be moving into that Maddox role, and then Abizi and Simp are going to be your cracked out SMG duo, which on paper of course is an upgrade. It's interesting to see Brustini remain on the team because he hasn't been great, as the same with JKap really, but then again, Brustini plays a role where you're not expecting his stats to be as good as a guy like JKap. Of course, using the Maddox, having like a 0.8 as we looked at yesterday at CWL Fort Worth really isn't going to cut it with the Maddox unless you're bringing some crazy intangibles outside of the game. And yes, Cap obviously does have some intangibles, but whether those were the intangibles per se that eUnited needed, considering you've already got Clayster on the team, you've already got Arstees, who definitely brings some element of leadership and in-game calling. Maybe they felt like JKap really wasn't the fit for this team and the guy that they really needed, in addition to some behind the scenes stuff, which we'll get into a second. So Brustini and Arstees remaining on the team is interesting. Of course, they are twins, if you guys weren't aware, non-identical of course, but yeah, they're staying on the roster for the time being at least. Of course, we have seen that with Scraps and Whiskey, and they've split up and had decent success, well, actually very good success, I guess you could say, since they split up off that UNILAD team earlier last year. So it's been an interesting one. Whether these guys will split up long term is an interesting question. If this team continues to not perform, who will be not necessarily the scapegoat, but who will be the man out the door next time? Of course, Clayster is undroppable off this team, borderline undroppable in terms of the fact that eUnited need him to keep up their reputation and keep up a lot of their fan base. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the comment section feel that if eUnited were to drop Clayster, you would fall out of love for this team or something along those lines. eUnited clearly understand that. Clayster's effectively a staple. Abizi has been fantastic. He's not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and so has Arstees in general. So if they're not performing come April the 5th, who will be the next man out the door? Potentially it'll be Simp if he doesn't perform. Maybe they'll get another SMG, and maybe they'll put Brustini back in that role, or it could be Brustini once again is under the firing line with JKap now out the door, and we'll have to see how this affects this team long term. Supposedly in scrims earlier yesterday, they were doing fantastic. 21 in 1 map count or something, Clayster said online, but whether the JKap drop will affect them long term is interesting. Of course, we know how much this guy brings to a team. He's a twice world champion on Team Envious in Black Ops 3 and back on Denial with Clayster in the Advanced Warfare season. So considering that, you'd think that JKap's a super valuable asset, but not necessarily an asset to every single team. As I said, it may well be that eUnited feels like they don't necessarily require exactly what JKap brings to the table. Maybe they feel like they need a bit more slaying on the squad, with JKap dropping a 0.8 with the Maddox. Not necessarily ideal by any means, but of course he does have a habit of finding winning rosters and putting players together that can potentially do something down the line. So we'll have to see where he goes next. It's a really interesting situation where JKap will end up. There's potential maybe he could go onto a team like Envious. There's rumours that maybe Aches could be off that squad. There's also rumours, not necessarily rumours, but people have been talking. Sonic made the suggestion that maybe Evil Geniuses could be a target for a guy like Cap if they're going to get Goonjo off the team, or Felony, something like that, do some switcheroos. pros. Maybe Cap can even go in as like a main ICR, sit at the back and, you know, patrol the action, make the call outs and the like, and maybe that'd be really helpful to something like that. Also, their midnight team would be a possibility. You know, Llama God wasn't playing particularly well at CWL Fort Worth. Maybe you put JKap in there. And then, okay, if JKap and Parasite can potentially get along, then you have this situation where he can try and put some hot heads together, which is maybe what JKap has been best at throughout his career. And maybe United feel like, okay, with Clayster on the team and with RCTs providing some degree of leadership, they don't feel like they need JKap in that role, considering he was kind of a last-minute pickup when Luminosity dropped him at the start of the season. Of course, they've gone on to win a championship. So maybe this whole, if you drop JKap, you're going to lose forever thing isn't really too valid, but we'll have to see. This is another opportunity of where JKap can prove himself as a guy that can really put together a winning roster out of nowhere. The other option, of course, is that JKap goes to the retirement home or the like. There was this tweet from Enable suggesting that, you know, JKap secured the bag. Apparently, CoD was saying this is just like baiting, it's just a meme and the like. But, you know, who knows? It's possible that JKap has something lined up behind the scenes. Maybe it's on the analyst desk. Maybe it's in a team management position. We don't know exactly what Facento's going to be doing yet, but he retired a few weeks back. And yeah, so we'll have to see how these guys play out. And I really wouldn't want JKap to retire because he's pretty much the last surviving guy. He's been around all the way back since Black Ops 1 and has been considered one of the best players for a very long time and considered one of the most important players and definitely probably, yeah, I'd say like top 6 players of all time. JKap's got to be up there somewhere. So then, of course, there was a bit of drama to go along with this stuff. CoD was saying a couple of weeks ago that it was JKap who tried to convince the rest of the guys on eUnited to get rid of Clayster off the team, and then eUnited said, oh, no, hell no, we're not doing that. Now, of course, I can't ratify any of this. This is just what's been rumoured, but a lot of people have been talking about it, and there hasn't been too many pros coming out in defence of JKap, I would say. So, you know, we'll have to see if we get any more information on this in the coming days. But, you know, JKap does some reply here to CoD, which is rather interesting. But regardless, CoD says that, yeah, it was rumoured that JKap was trying to get Clayster dropped off the team, and then that didn't work out because United didn't want it to happen, and then as it turns out, JKap's off the team, and JKap replies to the CoD saying, Clay, when it comes to me versus you, I'll tell other pros that grass is purple and they'd all back me as long as it's a debate between me and you. So implying that CoD is Clay, which is, well, rather intriguing. I don't think that's likely by any means. And then you have this from Nameless. I need JKap and Clay on the podcast ASAP. Clay says, I've got nothing to say that I haven't said already. It is what it is. Sucks it ended up like that, but I wish it could have been different. That's COD for you. And then he replies to Neb, who says, wouldn't you recruit me in a fuse? I'm not the burner, I know this. Anyone who's my friend would know I'd never do something like that. No need to defend myself against little or made up accusations because someone is upset. There's literally cannot be any evidence on the burner because I know I'm not. And, like, I find it incredibly unlikely that Clayster would be the burner. It's just not the type of personality he is. I think he understands how impactful the burner is on the community and how bad it is to some degree for the pro players, and in terms of what comes out to the community, maybe there's some deal that's going on behind the scenes, and because it gets known and other team owners know it as well, then it changes the terms of the deal that they were potentially signing. So it definitely messes a few things up, and I'm sure Clayster understands that. I highly doubt he's the burner, but yeah, that was a little bit of drama to discuss. Now Merk does this tweet dropping JKap. That's a bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off for him. And you know, this guy AMS GoGo kind of sums up my opinion on JKap on the whole. JKap is a legend with 2 rings. He finds himself winning or in the grand finals of tournaments every single year. Of course, in Vegas, he made the grand finals again. He also has the greatest average placing at champs of all time. And yeah, I definitely appreciate JKap as a player. I think he's a fantastic player. He's had a fantastically long tenure. We'll have a look at some of his performances in a second here. Maybe I have to save this for the retirement video. I don't know if that's going to happen. But it's definitely arguable here that he wasn't the man that eUnited exactly needed. And yes, he did have a 0.8 with the Maddox, but I'm sure a lot of other players can see a value in a player like JKap. But he may well get another spot on a league team if he so desires. So I thought it'd be interesting to scroll through his career here to some degree. Back in Black Ops 1, he was considered arguably the best player in the entire game. We'll scroll up a lot of championships. I think he has 9 championships overall. And of course, we have this situation here when he goes onto this Team Envious squad in early Black Ops 3. Well, he was on Envy much earlier than that, but then he put together this team of, you know, Slasher, Abadi and John, and end up taking the World Championship. And the remarkable thing really is that he managed to stay on this team for the entirety of the Infinite Warfare season. They were looking horrible, and they brought it around towards the end to finish second at Stage 2 and Champs. Arguably should have beaten Optic Gaming at least one of those 2 events. JKap had a very poor Champs though, so yeah, to some degree, he makes a winning team, but his statistics and his individual performances at time do cost the squad. And I don't think there's many people arguing that in that World Championship match, he was not playing up to the par that he should have been if they had a chance to beat Optic Gaming, put it that way. And then, of course, the interesting part here is that JKap gets dropped off the team. Slasher brings back that team with Temp. We had Hook and we had Classic as well. and they have basically no success. And then JKap on this new Luminosity squad managed to win CWL Birmingham, and then at the start of this season, JKap gets dropped off this Luminosity team. Of course, they were bringing in Classic, they were bringing in Gunless, and then JKap goes on to eUnited, makes a grand final, and now he's been dropped off this team. So you can see how this progression tends to be, how he gets dropped off a team, finds his way somewhere else, and manages to win a championship along the way. Whether that will happen this time remains to be seen. This is a tweet from Maven. I understand the move, Simp is nasty, eUnited will be great. With that being said, Cat will join another team during the next roster movement. There's a 117% chance he knocks eUnited out the tourney in London. Slasher says they weren't very structured with Cap. It's always interesting to hear pro players' perspective. Now it's going to be even worse. Simp can slay more. Was that really their problem? The suggestion that slaying was their problem, I think, is probably a valid one, to be honest, because I feel like with Cap on the team, in addition to Pristini not playing particularly well and Clayster not being the self they used to be, slaying arguably was an issue on this eUnited squad, and maybe Simp will provide that in the SMG department. Whether it will make them more structured does remain to be seen. However, can Pristini perform with this Maddox? We'll have to see in cross-divisional play. Oh yeah, this is another thing to mention. Looney says, can't believe people still dropping JKap for, well, largely the reasons I just mentioned. Lucky they told him over the phone Cap would spark him off if they said it to his face. Cap says, over the phone, that's the best part. I still haven't been directly told from eUnited, so supposedly he found out via a tweet, which is, well, not a good look on eUnited's part. I think it was the same thing when Silly got dropped off this team and they were bringing in Felony as well, so, well, it's rather intriguing. So I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about this roster move down in the description box below. Will Simp improve this squad long term? Will Pristini be able to fit into that Maddox? Will this squad be able to capitalise on that 5-2 very nice record that they have in the league going forwards? These are their matches for this week. So we have eUnited are going to play Evil Geniuses first up. Not exactly sure yet who's going to be on these teams. Maybe EG make a change. Of course, they have a substitute, I think, in God RX that they could potentially bring in if they so wished. But yeah, so they're playing EG, then they're playing UIU, then they are playing Luminosity Gaming, of course, which will be rather exciting, and then Red Reserve to finish out the week. So rather tough week. We'll have to see how Simp has an impact on this team. He's definitely been considered a superstar for a long time. Didn't really talk about him too much this video, but yeah, this guy just won the CWL Fort Worth Open bracket. He's won a lot of local LAN tournaments throughout his career so far. He's only 18, I think, right now. Yeah, just turned 18 about a month and a bit ago. So yeah, this is a great opportunity for him. He's considered an S&D superstar since really back in Black Ops 3. Been fantastic as an online player, and also, as I say, has done it in local LAN tournaments as well. So whether he will be able to convert this eUnited squad into a championship contender, to a championship winner, remains to be seen. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.
I'm rotating. Just stay alive if you can. Oh, that's it.
What is that?
I'm going now.
Nice.
Don't know how he got so quick. He's probably gonna flank mid, is my guess. I'm just gonna watch it for a second.
Yeah, I don't see him up here.
Do you wanna? What do you wanna do? Yeah, flank him mid. You can hop it. You can hop it. Oh, guns! Give me that fucking thing.
He's got an axe.
What freaking chair? It won't go in reverse. This.
Remember
one of the
when me
wheels
and
on it gets
Aaron were
stuck and I
walking
can't move it
back
backwards.
When we were in Swords, we were walking back from JC's and we called Kieran, and you were in Spain or something, or in Portugal, and you were on holiday, and there was that truck that I was reversing inside, and I was making it noise. That's what that reminds me of. Just brought us all back. I was ready to the same sound effect.
I don't know how I got no hit markers and then just killed him instantly.
He's dead?
I guess he didn't regen from Kieran's gunfight.